Hello everybody, my name is Michael. Today we are going to make a virtual machine using Oracle VirtualBox. It is going to be a Windows virtual machine, and let's just take a look here. You'll see my VirtualBox. I am using version, it says 6.1, but it is 6.1.40. There is a version 7 out, which I used the other day, but it gave me this aborted file here and a few other ones, so I decided to go back to version 7 for now. One of my other students has used version 7 successfully, at least so far. She said she'd get back to me if there is a problem, so hopefully everything's fine with version 7, but I did go back to version 6.1 just for now. The version 7 interface is slightly different. So if you look here, I made a few notes, and what we see here is that when you're making a virtual machine, you're going to be using something called an ISO image. ISO is International Standards Organization, and they create many standards for many different things, such as networking and kitchen cabinets and software and hundreds of other things. So that standardization is a good thing because it helps keep things, helps prevent chaos because things are organized and standardized. Anyway, the ISO image we're going to be using is Server 2019. Later on, in another video, I'll probably make a Linux virtual machine. So we're going to get probably Ubuntu version 20.04 or even 22.04 ISO image from the Ubuntu people. But for today, we're going to be getting Oracle VirtualBox, Windows Server 2019 from Microsoft. So basically, what you need to do is download Oracle VirtualBox from Oracle. But before you start, make sure you have enough RAM, 4 gigabytes. So if I go here into System, so I'm just going to type in System and go into my system information. And in my system information, it tells you that I have a 64-bit computer and that I've got 16 gigabytes of RAM, which is really plenty of RAM. And then if we go into hardware resources here, we can see for my, let's see, well, there's my memory. Then I can go into components. Let's go take a look. There's what I wanted was storage, and we want disk, and you'll see I have where is it? A terabyte of SSD, you see right here. Okay, so you want to make sure that you have at least 4 gigabytes, but really 8 gigabytes or more. I happen to have 16 gigabytes. And then the other thing, make sure you have enough hard drive space, so at least 50 gigabytes free. I probably have 800 gigabytes free. So download, install Oracle VirtualBox. So what you're going to need to do that is you're going to need to go into Oracle VirtualBox. So there's Oracle VirtualBox, and then you're going to be downloading this. So if we just go here and click on that, you have to figure out see version 7 is out now, so that's what you're going to get as of October 2022. So they're just talking about that. It was released about now they have 7.0.2, so it's maintenance. Yeah, there were some problems, so maybe the version 7.02 has fixed those problems. I'm going to stick with 6.1.40, which was released October 11th, and I'm going to stay with that for now. Oh, look, this is so funny, because they released on October 10th, they put number 7, but then they re-released, they made sure that you have 6.1 for all the people having trouble with version 7. And then Yeah, I see that. And then look, so here now they have a 7.02. So maybe they fixed the problem. That's the one you'd be getting if you download this. So basically you have to, once you click on that, right, then you decide you have Windows, then get the Windows version. If you have a Macintosh, get the Mac version. If it's an Intel, there's an ARM version here, which they just came out with. That is brand new, I believe. So hopefully that solves some of the problems that people were having being able to install virtual machines using this new ARM machine, the M1 and M2. So if they fix the problem, that is fantastic, folks. And if you have Linux, obviously there's your Linux version, and you probably don't have Solaris because that is going to be Unix. Okay, I'm not going to download this because I'm going to wait till more students let me know how version 7.0.2 is going. But anyway, once you download that, you're going to go install it. And once you install it, it's going to look just like this, except you won't have a bunch of virtual machines. I have some Windows VMs. I have some Kali Linux VMs because I'm teaching a little bit of cybersecurity and classes like that. But basically, once you download your ISO image, don't double click on it, because if you do, it will install it onto your machine, which you do not want Server 2019 on your beautiful Windows 10 or Windows 11 machine or your Macintosh machine. Okay, so we're not we're installing Windows 2019 in a virtual machine, not on your real machine. So don't double click on it. If you look here, it came into my downloads, but what I did was in my documents, I made a folder called ISO Image Library, and I copied it from my downloads folder into this ISO Image Library. So there it is. So I'm not going to double click on it. I just know where it is. And then I'm going to go click on New. So if you look here, we download the VirtualBox. We make sure virtualization is enabled in the BIOS. And so the way you can do that is when you click on the new in the VirtualBox console, you'll have the ability to make both 32 and 64-bit VMs. If the VBox console only has allows you to make 32-bit VMs, then you need to enable virtualization in your CMOS setup. So, and then once you do that, then you can download your ISO image. Oh, yeah, there we go. I could go ahead, maybe put that here. Well, we'll leave it at that. But let's go take a look at something. Here's what I was talking about. If I go into New, I have Windows 7 64-bit is the default. So I have both 32 and 64-bit ability to make 64 and 32-bit VMs. If yours only say 32-bit, it would mean that your virtualization is not enabled in your CMOS. In that case, you have to go figure out how to do it, which is pretty easy. Just depends on what computer you have. If you have like a HP or Compaq, you're going to restart your machine, and before the OS loads, you're going to press F10. With other machines like Lenovo, it's like F1 or F2. Or Sony Vaio, I think it's F1. If you have to look that up. Anyway, I'm going to choose Server 2019, and I'm going to call this machine Server 1. Okay, so if we go back out to our notes here, it says by default you're only going to have one network card installed on your new VM, but I like to add an additional NIC, network interface card, because I will put the first NIC on internal and when I'm networking two VMs, and then I'm going to put the second NIC on NAT, which allows me to get internet inside my VM. Now, I don't always need internet, but it's nice. If I only had one NIC, I can either have internet, which you'll have by default, or I can have it internal with another machine internal and network them together through a virtual switch inside Oracle VirtualBox. Then if I have those two NICs networked together or connected on internal, then I can have a second NIC connected up to the internet on each of the two virtual machines. Then they can have internet and connect each other, and everybody's happy. Okay, so the installation is going to take about 20 minutes or so. Once the VM's complete, I set this administrator password of pass1234 exclamation point. It's not a secure password. Like, I don't use that on anything else in the world. My students maybe think that I do. Michael must use pass1234 exclamation point for all his passwords. But the truth is, from a security standpoint, you never want to use the same password on 2 different devices. You always use different passwords. It's like if you have 10 locks and they all have the same key, and you lose one of the keys and somebody finds it, they can get in all 10 locks. Whereas if each of the 10 locks has a different key, then if they find one key, they can get into one lock but not the other one. So all devices should have different passwords. The reason why I use this is because I've been teaching this for over 10 years now, and people always, they'll set a password, then that they go to log in, and like, even though they set the password 3 minutes ago, they've already forgotten their password. Bad news. So anyway, use a password you know you're going to remember, like pass1234 exclamation point. See that? Okay. This password's only for these VMs and keeps you from forgetting your password. And if you forget your password, you're going to be locked out, and it's just like losing the key to your house. You'll wish you hadn't done it. Okay. After installing each Windows VM, we're going to put in something called the VirtualBox Guest Editions, and then we're going to name our VMs Server 1 and Server 2. Now, the Server 1 that I have here is only an internal name. I still have to go inside Oracle VirtualBox and give, sorry, that's an external name. It's like a label. But internally, they're going to have some name that Microsoft auto-generates, Win-XJZ123 or something like that. So we want to rename them Server 1 and Server 2. Why do we rename our machines? Well, because it just makes sense. If you have 10 machines on the network, and this one is called Server 1, and this one's called Web Server 5, and this one's called DHCP Server, people can tell, oh, there's the web server, or whatever it is, okay? So it just makes sense to do that, okay? So when we're all done, we are going to network them together, but that is in part 2 of this series. So without further ado, let us go ahead, and I started doing this. Let me start all over again. So the first thing you do is go into New, then I'm going to give it a name, something like Server 1, and then the default, you see you have Windows here, and it's going to put all my VirtualBox here in a folder on drive C, VirtualBox VMs. You have Windows, you can make Linux, Solaris, BSD, IBM OS2, Mac OS, and any other operating system on the planet, okay? But we're going to use Windows. We're not going to do Windows 7, so change it to Server 2019, 64-bit. Click on Next, and it's saying, oh, it's not letting me do that. If you look out here, I already have one called Server 1, so it doesn't want one called Server 1. So how about if I call this one Demo-Server 1, okay? And we can call the other one Demo Server 2. So there's Demo Server 1. I'll click on Next. I'm going to give it 2 gigabytes of memory because I do have 16 gigabytes. If you only have 4 gigabytes of memory, I would tell you to lower this down to 1024, okay? But since I have plenty of enough memory, I'll make it 2048, which is 4 gig. I click on Next. It's going to create a new hard drive now, so I'm not going to add a disk. I'm not going to use an existing disk. It says 50 gigabytes, but as you'll see, it's going to be what we call dynamically allocated, which I'll explain in a minute. So we're using a VirtualBox disk image. The VHD is Microsoft's virtual hard drive for their Hyper-V virtual machines. And then there's VMware has their VMDK for their virtual machines. But for our purposes, the VirtualBox disk image is fine. This is the dynamically allocated. If we said fixed, which you don't want to do, that's what they do up in the cloud, but they have different hypervisors. Hypervisors, the software we're using, Oracle VirtualBox is a hypervisor, and it's a machine that we use to make virtual machines. It's called a VMM, a virtual machine manager, which lets you create and manage your virtual machines, okay? Up in the cloud, they use a type 1 hypervisor, bare metal, that uses fixed size. So if they said 50 gig, they will allocate the entire 50 gig. But we don't want that. We want dynamically allocated. What that means is that even though the machine can grow to 50 gigabytes, when it starts off, it might be 8, 10, 12 gigabytes. So most of your virtual machines, even if you said 50 gigabytes, they will not grow to 50 gigabytes. They might grow to 10 or 12 or 15. I've never seen them get above, say, 18 gigabytes. Okay, so we're going to stick with dynamically allocated and go to next. And this is sort of a confirmation, and I click create. Okay, so basically that's my demo server 1. And what you could do is just go make your demo server 2. It's a little shell here, demo server 2. And it's going to be kind of the same thing, okay, not 2016, 2019. And we click on next. We stick with the 2 gigabytes of RAM. We create the hard disk now, and we have a VDI disk, and we have dynamically allocated, and this is our confirmation, and we create it. Now, we did not create these disks. No operating system has been installed. These are really just a shell, okay? So now the next thing we do is we go into settings. One of the things I said was in the network card, we have this one set as NAT. I'm going to put this one on internal, and then I'm going to skip 2 is no adapter, 3 is no adapter. I'm going to go to 4 and enable the adapter. And instead of not attached, I'm going to tell it to put it on NAT. So the first one was on NAT, and you could leave that one on NAT if you want, and put the second one on internal as well. But we're going to have one on internal, one on NAT. We're not going to change the name of this network, by the way, okay? And then this advanced is nothing, nothing you need to worry about. But if you look here, you'll see it does say cable connected. So if you're ever troubleshooting and there's problems, you might check to make sure the cable didn't come disconnected, which I've seen happen. Okay, so I go and configure the network, and I could just click OK, except there is something else I need to do in settings. I need to go into storage. Oh, look, I have a virtual DVD drive. There is no disk in my virtual drive. I will click on the drive. Now, how do I put my ISO image, which is the disk I want to put into the drive? How do I get that ISO image into this empty drive? If you look out here to the right, I go and click on this one, and I'm going to go choose disk file. And from there, it takes me into documents, takes me into my ISO library, and takes me into this. Now, I click OK, and I click OK. Now, we still haven't made any virtual machine. Now, I think I did that one on server 2, if I'm not mistaken. So let's go take a look. Server 2, yeah, has that one. So let's go to server 1. We can do the same thing. Since we're going to make 2 virtual machines, we're going to network them together, so you're going to need 2 of them anyway. So if I go into settings, once again, I have 2 of these. I'm going to go to adapter 4, and I'm going to put that one on NAT, and on adapter 1, I'll put that one on internal. Oops, internal. Okay. So that should work fine. And then once again, we could click OK, but remember, we still need to go to storage. We have a little empty DVD here, and we need to go here, and it knows my little file is there. And I click on that and click OK. So now if you look here, we haven't made any virtual machines, but we've got everything ready to make them. So let's go to number 1, and we're going to click Start. And it says make sure the kernel mode. Okay, so I'm not sure why I got that, because I got rid of my version, whatever it was. Let's go try this other one. Failed to open a session. So I'm not sure what happened here. Let's go try my other one. Probably get the same message. And I did indeed. So it's telling me rebooting might help. just for the fun of it, let's go to my server 1 that I have here. There's a server 1. And let's try starting that up, see if it even works. Okay, so none of my virtual machines are working. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to pause this while I try to fix the problem. Okay, I'm back. That was interesting. I think I got it working here. First thing I'll show you here is I have upgraded my version. I told you I started off with 1.40. I have now upgraded to this 7.02. The other thing that I ran into was I got this error message saying missing dependencies Python core. So I did a little bit of a Google search and figured out Python core Win32 API was the message. If you see here, the message that I got. So this is some troubleshooting. If you get an error message, I like to get it in Paint so I can keep it and try to solve it. And then I went to Python there. And once I did that, it told me to go ahead in my command line to type in pip install Python. And from there, I went into my command prompt. If I right-click administrator, and I went and ran that command. It actually told me to run this command. Python.exe pip is the Python installer program, and to install the upgrade. So I did all that, and I have the new version of Oracle VirtualBox, and I can close a bunch of this stuff here. So I did use the new version, ladies and gentlemen. So let's go see if this will work now. Here's my demo server 1 that I made a few minutes ago. I go to click on Start. I keep my fingers crossed here that everything goes good. One thing you'll notice new about Oracle VirtualBox, it puts a little sort of a bar or blade off to the side here showing you about your virtual machines. This is good. Loading files, this is what you want. I'll make this full screen. And things are looking good here, ladies and gentlemen. What we'll do is we'll get one virtual machine going, and then I guess when we're done we can make a second one. Now you're going to get this language. Don't change the language. Keep that English United States. It's the time and date currency you want to change, and your keyboard method will get changed while you change the time. So I'm only going to change one thing. Instead of English United States, I'm in Ireland, I'm going to choose English Ireland. Why am I choosing that? First of all, I'm in Ireland. And second of all, there's two things it's going to do for me. A, it's not going to put it in Irish. If I change the language to Irish, which you don't want to do, unless you're a native Irish speaker, I suppose. But you want it in English, but basically the keyboard, the @ sign, and the double quote marks are reversed on the keyboard. The other thing is the time zone's different. Microsoft is the company that makes Windows Server 2019, and since they are in Redmond, Washington, on the West Coast, United States, they are in Pacific Standard Time, which is 8 hours behind us in Ireland. So you don't want your clock on your virtual machine to be 8 hours off. So what am I going to do? I'm going to click on English United States. I'm going to go up, up, up. You see all this United Kingdom and Tuvalu and Turkestan and Switzerland, and go up a little bit more. We see Montserrat. We see Jamaica, man. And there is Ireland. Okay, so we don't change the language, and it automatically changed our keyboard input. So we're going to go click Next, and we're going to go click Install Now. And my machine's pretty quick, so this should take, I'm going to guess 10 minutes. It's 10:24 here. Let's see, 24 minutes into this. Let's see, what time is it now? 9:22. Now, notice when this comes up, you have 4 images. One is 2019 standard evaluation. The next one says desktop experience standard. There's a data center evaluation and a desktop experience. You just want one of the ones that say desktop experience. It doesn't matter which one. I'll stick with the standard. If you stick with the one without the desktop experience, you will get what's called the core version, which will not give you a graphical user interface. You'll only have a big command line interface, which is great if you only know how to use the command line, which most of you probably don't. Okay, so stick with desktop experience, click on next. The hourglass comes on. Go get your lawyer, have him read this, or her read this to you, and basically it's saying, I promise not to steal Microsoft's intellectual property. Now, this next screen, what type of installation do you want? Upgrade or custom install? Take a guess. Are we upgrading? Like suppose you have Windows 10 and you're going to Windows 11. That's an upgrade. But right now, what operating system do we have in our virtual machine? None. It's brand new. This is not an upgrade. This is a custom install. We have a 50 gigabyte unallocated disk. We could click on new and make it 20 and 30 or 25, 25. We could partition it, but we're not going to. Just click on next, and the hourglass comes on, and we see we are going to be at 0 or 1 of 100%. So just give it a moment here, folks. So let's see, I'm at 0%. I have 923. Let's see how long this takes. I'm guessing it's going to be 5 minutes. And it could be faster. I got a pretty fast little machine. 924. Come on. It's going pretty quick here. Now notice at the bottom there's a little status bar. So it lets you know, first part is collecting information. The second part is installing Windows. So I don't know if it's actually partitioned the disk. It probably has. And then what it's going to do is start to copy data onto the disk. We're at 30%. It's still 924. This is going rather quick. I do have a great NVIDIA GeForce RTX processor, graphics processing unit, GPU. So it goes pretty quick. So we're about 2 minutes into it. It's 9:25, and I'm just about at 50%. Not bad for 2 minutes. My old machine would have taken, this would have probably taken 15 minutes, 10 minutes to get halfway done. I don't know. So we're 9:25. Let's keep going. I'm just going to keep talking while we're doing this. No, it was going kind of quick. Now it's kind of staying there. But that could just mean that it's run into something where it needs to do a whole bunch of work. So I could pause my machine, but we're only 2 minutes into it, so I'm not going to panic. And still 9:25. Come on. Come on, electrons, you can do it. I'm just kidding. It's not electrons. It's processing power. So it's 9:26. We're 3 minutes into this. Three minutes into it, we're 75%. I dare you to do that on your machine. Who knows? Your machine might be faster than mine. 80% after 3 minutes. Come on, come on. You can do it. Still 3 minutes. 90%. Still 3 minutes. Come on. 95%. 96. 97. It's like that one with the train going up the hill. I think I can. There we go. So it's okay, just turned 27. So 4 minutes. We're 4 minutes into it. It's adding features, installing updates. Then we're going to do some finishing up. Not bad for 4 minutes, folks. Status bar says we're here. Looking good, installing updates. Now, restarting. Not bad, huh? I could hit the button, but we'll let it restart. Not even 5 minutes. Not bad, folks. Not bad at all. Now, see right here where it says press any key to, or CD, do not hit the key there. Because if you do, it'll just start the installation process all over again, because you still have your DVD inside the drive. Actually, one thing we could do is we could go here to Devices and go Insert Guest Edition CD. What that will do is get rid of that Server 2019 installation DVD and put this DVD in it. So I could do that now. I could do it later. Okay, getting ready. Now it's restarting again. First time it restarted was to finalize just a lot of the processes that it did. Now it did a little bit more configuration and it restarted again. So we're 5 minutes into it. Not bad. Now it's looking for a password. So I'm going to put in pass 1, 2, 3, 4 exclamation point. See right there? Pass 1, 2, 3, 4 exclamation point. Why that password? Just it's one I can remember and one I can have you remember. If you don't remember, you're locked out. Okay, so remember that. Now press Control Delete. We don't want to do that because that'll just take you into here, I'll show you what happens. Control Delete takes you into your task manager. So what you need to do is go into Input. See up here on the menu, File, Machine, View, Input, Devices, Help. We go to Input, Keyboard, Insert, Control Delete. See that one right up there at the very tippy top? We can do that. The other thing, I think down here there's a right control. There's something. Anyway, so now we put in our password. Oh my goodness, I forgot my password. I'm locked out of my virtual machine. Just kidding. Okay, there's my password now. So we're logged in. So what we want to do so far, we're 7 minutes into this, which isn't bad. What I want to do is go here and I've put in those guest editions. Now this comes up with networks. I'll just say yes. Something called Server Manager is going to start up. Don't worry about that. If I go here, we could go into Shared Clipboard. We can go to Bidirectional. We could go to Drag and Drop, Bidirectional, and we could go Devices, Insert Guest Editions. This is going to come up for Admin Center. We don't really need to see that, so I can tick that box. Don't show the message again. Get rid of that X. Now, we've got this Server Manager. Watch this. We're going to be using it to add roles and features later on, but if we close it and we want it back, we just need to click on the Start button, and there you go. Server Manager, PowerShell, Admin Tools, Task Manager, Control Panel, Remote Desktops, Event Viewer, Files. Okay, so we can always get that Server Manager back anytime we want. No panic. All right. Now what we need to do is put in those guest editions. So if I click right here on my File Explorer, or I could go here to the Start and go to File Explorer. All right. What I want to do is click on this PC. Now see how it says guest editions. They got there when I went into Device, Insert Guest Editions. So I'm going to double click, and the biggest file here, this 15 meg one, this one, Guest Editions AMD 64. I'm going to double click it, or I can click on it once and hit enter. Same thing. Insert the guest editions, click on Next, click on Next, click on Install, and away we go. Flashes a few times. That's good. Now we're going to restart our virtual machine, which we're happy to do. Oops, it says aborted. I think it just died. Maybe it died. Let's go try to start it up, see what happens. Like I said, I already have one here before. Isn't that weird that it would do that right at the very end? So I'm hoping everything's fine. What the guest editions do is they add some special software into it. It's supposed to make your virtual machine run better. So anyway, I'm going to go to Import, Control Alt Delete. I'm going to put in my very top secret password that nobody on the whole planet knows except every single one of my students. And I'm in my virtual machine, and it's Windows. This is a server, and servers are supposed to keep running. It's what we call high availability. So anytime you reboot, you should put into your inside Windows, there's 3 log files: a system log, an event log, or sorry, a system log, a application log, and a security log. So this writes into this security log why you rebooted. So I'm just going to say installed guest additions. Okay, so you don't have to do that, but you can. Now there's something we want to do. We want to rename this machine. So if we go here to configure this local server, you see it's got this auto-generated number win-something something something. So this is a description. We don't want to change that. What we want to do is to rename this computer or change its domain or workgroup. Click change. So we go click there. And how about I call this demo server 1. And now I'm going to rename it. But you'll notice when you go to rename it, it does make you reboot the machine. The reason why you have to reboot the machine, there's actually 2 reasons. One, it needs to write into the Windows registry that you're rebooting the machine. But the other thing is, right now you're on the network with this old name, and when it reboots, it's going to establish you on the network with your new name. So we go ahead and we click restart, and if everything goes according to plan, it should just restart. If we go out to this console, the aborted went away, so that's looking good. Okay. So basically what we would do now is go start up demo 2 and do exactly everything we just did. We would do it again to this second virtual machine. So let's go. I click on show. I'm going to go to input, and if I go here, pass 1, 2, 3, 4, abracadabra. Now at some point this will resize. It's only a partial screen, but when you put in those guest additions, it should force it to do that, to resize. Now it did give me an error, so I might go put in those guest additions again. Now you shouldn't have to, because you probably won't get an error message. So just for the fun of it, I'll go put them in again. You don't need to do this, but you could see out on the panel there, it did say aborted. So I don't know if that's a problem or not. So it's going to go restart, and if everything goes according to plan, it should just start right up. And if we look here, it didn't say aborted or anything, so it's lovely. So once we go and log in here, Control Delete, we can type in our very secret password. And that's about it. We can see our computer name here. If I just go here into type in CMD, and in our command prompt I can type in host name, which is a command we use to see our name of our computer, and it's called demo server 1. Okay, so I'm going to close the command prompt, and really I'm going to stop the video. So just to review, everybody, when you're making a virtual machine, you want to make sure that you have virtualization enabled in your BIOS. And so you can see I had both 32 and 64-bit virtual machine capabilities. I downloaded the ISO for Server 2019, which you just get from Microsoft.com. And I set the NICs there, one on internal, one on NAT. We saw my installation went pretty quick. I set the password there. I put in the guest additions. One last thing I guess I'll show you is if I type in server, 2019 download ISO. You want the ISO. And once you do that, you have to go here to their evaluation center, and you're going to have a whole bunch of stuff. And so here's the ISO. You don't want the VHD, you want the ISO, and whatever language you want. So it's downloading the ISO to me, and hallelujah. So I'm going to say goodbye, everybody, and I'll see you in the next video where we network two of these machines together. Goodbye, everybody, and have a wonderful day.